but they lost the tower on the way up there, and then supposedly they lost their steering, and they couldn't make it back. You know, they barely made it back.
The second one was called the Sea Wolf.
Yeah. And you might want to tell the guy, I forget what his name is, that's going up there, if he does cross that zenith, that point of no return, he might want to turn his power off as he goes across, because there's going to be a surge.
You may be right there, too. Okay, thanks.
Also, I wanted to
go ahead.
say one more. I've actually got 3 stories, and you can pick which one you want.
Well, I've got a couple minutes to go, so you give me the one that'll fit in that time period.
All right. Well, me and my uncle were driving home from work, and I'd been on vacation for 3 weeks. We stopped in the road, and we talked to a man for over an hour and a half about buying a car off him, and went on home. I was trying to buy a truck for my father. My father wanted it. We get home, I tell my father about it, and he said, well, you couldn't have been that man. I said, why? I said, well, he died 2 weeks ago while we were on vacation. And it was a unique guy that there was nobody like him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my daddy, he just turned white as a sheet, and he showed me the obituary, and my mother saw it. And I said, whatever you do, don't say anything. Just go up there and ask my uncle, you know, who that was we spoke to.
Uh-huh.
You know. And he took the obituary in his back pocket. And my uncle, he hadn't known about it. And my daddy showed him the obituary. He said, he's never said a thing like he said, yeah, we talked to him for 2 hours. You know, he started getting mad because my dad was saying, you know, well, I know who he is. I've known him for years.
That's incredible.
And it was like, whoa. You know, and Pop, you know, he'll tell you right now, you know, that the guy was dead. And me and my uncle, I was less than a foot and a half from him. We stopped on a bridge.
Did he look dead to you?
No, he looked perfectly alive. He said he was shooting snakes on a bridge.
He just didn't go away. I'll be back in a moment. 2 hours of open lines to go right here on Coast to Coast AM. Okay, so we're into the next day. The anniversary of the moon landing has come and gone now, so I'm going to change the hotline topic as well. So get ready for that for the next 2 hours. A couple days ago, I'm in my car. It's nighttime, and I see a shadow go across, I guess, a light. It probably was a reflection from a street light. Had to have been. But I had the eeriest feeling that there was someone in the back seat. And I even turned around, and I'm telling you, I thought I saw red eyes, but I did not. I guess there was nobody there. So the special topic line, I want to see how many people this is happening to. Here's the phone number, 818-817-0021, 818-817-0021. Have you ever had that feeling as you're driving that someone else was in the back seat? Okay, welcome back to Coast, and let's go to the backseat line. I can't believe it. It's happening to other people. Hi there. Hello.
Hello, this is Nick.
Hey, Nick. Welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, I'm calling from South Dakota. I drive a truck, and, you know, it doesn't happen all that often, but every once in a while I'll get a really weird feeling. You know, when the back of your hairs on the neck stand up kind of deal. And it scared me really bad, actually. I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous. It's really
That's okay. Does this happen to you when you're in a car or the cab?
When I'm driving by myself.
All right.
And it's weird because every once in a while I'll notice it out of the, like, I can, with my peripheral vision, kind of see it back there. And I've always been scared to actually look back because if there is something I don't want to acknowledge it, it's kind of weird. But I've had to pull over a couple times and get out of the truck and walk around. It's a scary feeling.
What would you do if you did turn around and there was somebody back there?
Oh, my gosh, I don't know. I'd probably just freak out. I have no idea what I would do.
Pull over and jump out.
Hopefully whatever it was would be nice.
It is creepy. You know, I don't know how many calls we'll get on this subject tonight, but I'll tell you what will really be creepy is if somebody actually was back there.
I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, it's a really strong feeling the few times that it's happened. I don't know if there's something that's just hopping in along the way to get to wherever it needs to be or what, but it definitely is freaky.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, you can literally feel the presence of something back there.
Yeah, I know, and it's weird because you can almost sometimes I can feel it coming closer, but it's always been on the passenger side in the back of the truck,
like breathing on your neck.
Oh my gosh!
You don't want that. All right, be safe.
Thanks, George. I love you.
Okay, first time caller line. You're up on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. It's Sam from Greenwood, Nebraska.
Hey, Sam.
I just have one question for you.
Sure.
It kind of has kind of philosophically. Is there? We always talk about higher powers, believing in certain things that are higher than human beings. My question is there any, culture or group of people, tribe, whatever you want to call it, in the world that does not believe in anything like that just lives life as it is, not thinking that there's anything beyond death, and just living life?
I would say some scientists. Some scientists probably don't believe in the supernatural or life after death or, divine intervention or creator. I would think that almost uncivilized, and I hate to use the word uncivilized. That's probably not fair. I would say that there are civilizations, maybe tribes in the Amazon that are probably more sophisticated, believing what you just talked about, than most people who seem to be educated. I really do. I think the common denominator of people originally was that they had a strong belief system, and I think it went away.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying there. It's just kind of interesting because there's so much to try and understand with that, and it's almost naive to think that there's anybody that could be that like naturally, like a tribe or anything like that doesn't believe.
Doesn't believe. No, they have to, and I think humankind needs to believe too.
Yeah, I'm only 22 years old, and I'm slowly coming to believe that everybody needs to believe, and that there is something, and I believe that there is something. It's just a higher power, something that's not in the human capacity to completely understand. I just don't think that we've evolved to that point yet. But that's
how lonely would it be? How lonely would you be if you really believed that there was not life out there on other planets, and that there was no God? That when you died, that was it.
That is a lonely life.
It is horrible.
And like I said, I'm slowly coming to believe that. I'm a pretty stubborn person, and I'm stubborn in a bad way, I think. But I'm slowly coming to realize that you can't live life like that, and you've got to have that social contact and have something to look forward to as opposed to just nothing.
You have to have that faith.
That is true.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call.
Not a problem, George.
You're making us think here. Let's go to our West of the Rockies line. You're on Coast to Coast. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Tom from West Seattle.
Hi there. You sounded like Oscar for a moment.
Well, I'm sorry. I was waiting here, and I cannot believe that I got through.
You do sound like
shocked.
Oscar. Hi, Tom. What's going on?
Well, see, I'm 21.
All right.
And I have no sort of special person in my life yet.
Well, you're young, Tom. You're young.
Oh, no, I'm not worried about it. What I am worried about, though, is I have this recurring fear that my wife dies.
Really?
Yes, and...
The wife that may be, eventually.
A wife that may be. I don't know. It's just that I have this terrible fear that I will have a wife that dies.
And how does she die?
I have no idea. And it's also funny that I don't... I'm opposed to marriage in some ways. Not always. In some ways for myself, my personal belief, I am opposed to marriage.
So you're just going to date or live with somebody?
Oh, yeah, I could live with somebody, yes. I have no plans on marrying, yet I have this fear that my wife is going to die, and I was sort of wondering if anyone else has this sort of...
How long have you had this feeling?
Probably 2 to 3 years.
Have you had any dreams or premonitions before that came true?
Yes. You asked me this. Yes. I was going to mention this when I called him before. I got through 3 times, by the way, and I was just thrilled with getting through 3 times.
You're lucky.
Yeah. I was extremely thrilled with that. Okay. Yes, I have had 3 premonitions, and 2 of them have come true, and I have stop the third one, I believe, by changing my life. The first one was that I was rummaging through someone's purse looking for cigarettes. This was when I was very little, very young. And the idea of smoking was terrifying because I knew that smoking was, it's terrible for your health, right?
It doesn't help.
Well, right. And I woke up from this thinking, it was terrible. I was addicted to tobacco, and I had no idea what that was like back then. This is when I was 8 or 9 years old, maybe.
Okay.
And then the second one I had was that I was injecting some sort of drug into my hand, into the finger, or not the finger, into a vein between my pinky and ring finger.
Okay.
And unfortunately, a few years ago, for a little while, I was involved with intravenous drug use.
Oh my! And is that where you were sticking yourself?
No. However, one day that spot, I was thinking, I don't want to get collapsed vein or something, so I'm going to try somewhere else.
Oh.
And I saw this vein in my hand, and I went, and as soon as I was shooting in there, I remembered this dream. It terrified me.
What about the smoking? Did you start smoking?
Oh, yeah.
So you've done that.
Yeah.
Well, now I know why you're terrified to get married, Tom.
Yes. Well, the third one was the most terrifying, and this has not come true, and I hope it never will. And that was that I was in some sort of alley or some dark area, and I had a dirty blonde, kind of cute young woman that I had grabbed around the throat and pushed up against the wall and was trying to intimidate in some way.
Tom.
And I am not a violent person in any way. I am more likely to be crucified than crucify.
Yeah.
I cannot stand hurting someone. I feel bad about walking on plants sometimes. And this dream terrified me. And I'm glad, I think that maybe the first two have had some part in.
What if this third dream, you somehow had the ability to look through the eyes of somebody else?
I've thought of that. With all of those, I've thought of that, and I wondered if any of them had sort of initiated my smoking or any other activity.
I don't know. You're 2 for 2 on that end. Well, that dream with the person being held up against the wall, what happened to her?
I have no idea. I woke up. It was terrifying.
And the dream of the wife dying? How was she dying?
No, this isn't even a dream. This is just a
premonition, a feeling
that comes up.
Ah, okay.
I don't remember how we got into this. Somehow we got off to premonition.
Well, I got to tell you, I can't. I'm not going to tell you to get married or not to. That's not my job, not my role for you. But I can understand why you would be a little hesitant after some of these past things have happened to you. Let's go to the backseat line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. This is Mary Jo. I'm in Chandler, Arizona.
Is there somebody in your back seat, Mary Jo?
Hello?
Yes. Is there somebody in your back seat?
There was in my daughter's back seat.
What happened?
This was in like 1984 or 85 in Iowa. She would drive up to Des Moines Area Community College. You go through the country. One day she came home and said that she felt like somebody was pushing the back seat forward, but there was nobody in the back seat. And then a little while, I don't know, I don't even remember time span now, she came home and said that she was driving over the bridge, going over to the school, and she looked in the back seat, and there was this blonde, handsome, curly-headed man with a black turtleneck shirt on, just smiling at her in the rearview mirror.
Oh.
And she looked away, and when she looked back, he was gone. And I've known several people that have had an experience with a blonde, curly-headed man in a black shirt, but her girlfriend's mother later on, I told her then, I thought, well, that was Satan, because I've heard that he comes, he's a blonde, handsome, very handsome man.
Well, he's getting dressed these days, isn't he?
Yeah. So anyhow, we had the car blessed and went to the priest, right away and had the car blessed, and it didn't happen again. But her girlfriend's mother has also had experiences with this same
entity.
Same apparition, yes.
I've never heard of Satan looking good, though. Ever.
Well, yes, I've read it, and I've heard several people, years and years ago, 1957, when I started working in Des Moines, a girl at work, her husband worked in a photography studio, and a man with that description came, and the man was asking about cameras, and her husband took pictures of this man, and when the pictures were developed, there was nothing there, and he told her then that he had this premonition that he was going to die, and he died within just a short time span after that.
How would you like to give the devil a ride? What a horrible thing to happen.
I don't think so. Hey, while I've got you on the phone, I've been wanting to call you. Can I tell you about the time a UFO almost crashed on the family farm?
Yeah, I'd love to hear this.
Okay. This was in probably 1956 or 57. It was in the summertime. And my sister's girlfriend, her grandparents lived about a quarter of a mile up the road. So.
And where was this farm?
In Iowa.
Okay.
Iowa.
All right.
Yeah, this happens in southern Iowa. And so we walked up and got Shirley, walked her back to the house, and we were laying in bed. It was, I don't know, it was after 10 o'clock. It was after the news and everything. We were in bed. And we heard this weirdest noise outside the window, or outside. And I can still, to this day, hear it, and my hair just stood up on the back of my neck. And my first thought was, who would be riding a horse down the gravel road galloping in the middle of the night, this time of night in the dark? So we were so scared we didn't even look out the window to see what happened. So when we walked Shirley back up to her grandparents the next day, they had been sitting on their front porch, and there's a road. The road separates our Daddy South 40 from their house, and they were sitting out on the porch visiting. They had company from out of state, and they saw a UFO almost crash in our South 40.
Oh, man.
And it just pulled up at the last minute, pulled up and out. So the next day, and we didn't tell Daddy this, because he, of course, in the morning, we didn't get up before he went out.
Would Daddy have believed you?
Well, Daddy came back from the field, and he had his overalls, and he was pulling these little strips of like mylar, this strips of the silver material that, you crunched it and it's opened. You couldn't crunch it or anything. And he had pockets of it, and so he just put it in a cigar box and hid it in the kitchen cupboard. So I went to, in the last couple of years, went to the kitchen cupboard and looked, and either Mom or Grandma or somebody had thrown them away, but boy, I'd sure like to have them now.
Another one of those strange UFO cases. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi there.
Hi, George. My name's Alex. I'm real nervous. I've been listening to this show since I was a little kid.
Don't be nervous, Alex. Just sit back, relax. You'll be okay.
I heard earlier. I was listening earlier about the guy who said he saw the jogger, and then it disappeared.
Poof! He was gone.
What?
He just disappeared.
Yeah. You said it could have been a dimension, and their dimension, and that rang a bell in my head.
Or you ran into his house.
Or
you gotta put that in perspective.
Yeah, but the dimension thing just popped a story into my head that when I was over at my friend's house, and we were talking. I was telling him a story I heard on Coast to Coast, and his dad walked in the room and said, "You want to hear something really weird?" He said a friend of his at work with. A few years back was walking into town. He was going to go buy his wife. He said his wife was going to go get some shoes or something.
Okay.
And he said he was going to go to the bookstore and pick up a book, and because they were going to go on a trip. So he was walking down the street, and when he was about to cross the street, he just blinked out for a second, and when he opened his eyes up again, he saw a truck pass him. And it said Blancs on it, and it was all 1950s. It was all 1950s looking, and he looked in the streets. He saw 1950s clothing. He thought it was so weird. He thought, well, I guess they're just a little late on fashion.
Yeah, real late.
And he looked back at the bookstore, and he's like, wait a second, it's a butcher shop. And it was I don't remember the name of the butcher shop. And he was starting to walk back, started to turn around, and when he turned back around, he was back in, present. And he saw a woman who was about to walk into this store, and she stopped and she started looking around. So he crossed the street and he was like, did you think it was something else? She's like, yeah, I thought this place was a butcher shop. And she's like, boy, was I wrong. And he's like, no, the same thing happened to me.
I bet it used to be a butcher shop.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about it. The guy did some researching, and turns out it was a butcher shop. And he remembered the truck's name, and turns out that was an old cleaning company.
Man, time travelers. That's exactly what they might have been. Time travelers. Also reminds me of the guy who popped up into the streets of Manhattan, got hit by a cab, and he was dressed in 1800s clothing. How that happened, nobody knows. Nobody knows who he was, but it was a story that was in a newspaper back many, many years ago. Open lines continue. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. Let's take some calls. Backseat line, you're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. It's a pleasure. My name's Larry. I'm calling you from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Hey, Larry. Sounds like you're driving around somewhere.
Yes, sir. I'm actually throwing a paper out right now.
Nobody's in the back seat, huh?
No, it's full of papers. I'll make sure it's always full. Now, what I wanted to share with you, George, was about 10 years ago, I had an experience where actually someone was in the back seat of my SUV. I'm an IT specialist during the day.
Okay.
And a lot of times we have to do work, after hours. We can't take servers down, during a business day.
Right.
And so some of these buildings you work in, you have to park in the garage. And I had come out to my SUV and sat in the SUV and started driving. And someone was 2 rows, I had three rows of seats. And someone was 2 rows back, sat up and pointed the gun straight at me, and I could see him through the rearview mirror. And told me that he needed a ride. He was very desperate, and that if I did what I told him, then I wouldn't be hurt. Needless to say, though, however, I was so scared that, you know what people do to themselves when they get scared like that.
Yeah.
So I wound up driving him 3 hours to Tallahassee, or maybe 3.5 hours, and dropped him off, and then immediately called the police. Well, come to find out, he was an armed robber. He had robbed someone, and the police were looking for him, and he used me for a ride out of town.
Amazing. Did he talk to you along the way for the 3 hours?
Yeah, yes, he did. In fact, the whole time, I lied to him. I told him I had kids, and at the time I didn't. I now do. But, I was just trying to think of anything to keep this man from killing me.
Yeah.
Because I had always heard that, sometimes they'll do it no matter what. And so I was really, really worried. But what I wanted to tell you, the premonition I had before when I was a kid, I used to have this nightmare that I was in my mother's car. She would leave me in the car to run into my grandmother's house, and the car would just take off by itself. It was something that was a reoccurring dream, but when I couldn't stop the car, I would look into the rearview mirror, and then I would see somebody there. And I had that dream for years, almost up until this incident happened. And, of course, that's been replaced lately by terror dreams of the incident. I still can't watch movies where when I see that happen in a movie, it still affects me to this day.
Did this freak you out when I mentioned this hotline tonight?
Yeah, actually it did. When you mentioned it, it came right back, and I wanted to call you because I found out when I talk about it, it does help. But it's still something I worry about to this day, especially at night. If I'm working, especially in a garage, parking garage. It's something everyone really should check their back seat. But it's, people are in a rush. You're tired. You're half asleep. Some things you just don't think about, and when you don't at one time is when it could happen.
When he got to the location he was headed for, what did he say to you? Did he thank you and walk away? What happened?
No, he didn't thank me. In fact, he said he told me to sit where I was for at least 30 minutes before I took off, and he said that he'd be watching. And I took him at his word. I didn't want to do anything that would make this man shoot at me from even a distance.
Right.
At that point, I just wanted to get home and change my clothes.
Did they finally catch him?
He wound up committing suicide 2 weeks later.
Oh my God!
In Florida. At least what I read in the newspaper. But when they told me, he was an armed robber, I was just really thankful to be alive. But it is something that bothers me still to this day.
I can understand.
I think anybody who goes through something like that probably, it lingers with them for some time.
And here I am joking with you about somebody in the back of your van. I'm sorry for that.
Oh, no, man. Look, like I said, I had those dreams before that, and when it happened, even when it happened, I didn't put it together. But I started wondering, man, was I really seeing something there or not? Because I've had other dreams of like a plane crash, and right before that plane went down Everglades, some years back.
I remember that, yeah.
I had a dream that the night before, and of course, it's never exact. It was in my neighborhood. I was standing on my street in the neighborhood, and I saw this plane going down into the Mississippi River. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but it was just kind of strange. These dreams kind of coincide with not exact events, not exact places, but things that happen. But I still don't have a hold on or understand it. But I just wanted to call you and share that with you.
Okay, thanks. A couple days ago, before this plane crash that they had in Sao Paulo in Brazil, the one that went over its runway and just kept going and then smashed into buildings across the street, I drove past a little airport where planes come over the street and then over a fence. These are small planes. And then they land. And as I was driving right past it, I said to myself, my gosh, what's going to happen one day when a plane cuts this thing short and comes right through the street? And sure enough, 2 days later, they had almost a similar type plane crash. These are weird things that happen to all of us. We get these premonitions, and then the secret is to start learning and writing them down when you get that kind of feeling, because that's been a problem all my life. I just never was able to channel it and register it. Now I'm starting to do that. Wild card line, you're on the air. Hi there.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, me and my buddies, I'm Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Me and my buddies just moved into a new house here in Pennsylvania about 4 months ago. And when we were moving our stuff in, we went up into the attic to put our crap in there and stuff. And we noticed all these Satanists, I guess, worship idols and things on the wall, upside down crosses and I don't know, just designs all over the place, and
like these people were Satanists or something.
Yeah, I guess they were just worshiping up there or something like that. I think they had candles too.
All right.
But we just ignored it and put it all down and just tried to forget about it. But then about a few weeks later, we were having parties up there, and we were just having a fun time, and we had music up there. And it's a pretty big place. It's pretty good, I guess. And the music just stopped, and then we were just what just happened? And and then things started to move. I think my one friend said that he dropped his drink, or his drink spilled, and without him moving it or anything. And so we just tried to ignore that. And then, but the room, the attic is right above my room, and so a lot of times at night I can hear creaks and walking and stuff, and a lot of movement up there. And so me and my friends decided to research on it, and we found out that a bunch of people used to actually worship up there, these underworld, I guess, people used to worship.
Did they do sacrifices up there too?
I think they did a few, actually.
What kind of research did you do? I mean, was there a story written on it in the local newspaper?
Well, we went on the internet, and I think it was as part of it was sort of
was this a haunted house?
No, it's not exactly haunted, but I'm just saying, actually, to continue my story, there's actually a slaughter up there, during one of their, from what I read, during one of their,
rituals.
Yeah, rituals. One of the members actually killed everyone in the ritual.
Up there?
Yeah, up there, and then I think he killed himself afterwards. It was kind of gruesome.
When did that all happen?
This was, I think it was 27 years before I bought my house, before we moved in, and from what I hear, the people actually tried to sell the house. Wouldn't actually. It took a long time for them to sell it.
Well, they have to disclose that out that way, don't they?
Yeah, it was in the news, I think.
Who would want to buy that? So what was the name of these murders or the slaughter? I'd love to check this out myself on the internet. You remember?
I can't remember.
Okay, well, when you remember, call me back. I want to find out. Let's go to the backseat line. You're on the air with us on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, George.
Hi.
Hey, this is Bob. I'm out here on the road, just east of Albuquerque. I was telling your guy, you need to talk to the truck drivers about the back seat stuff because we see all kinds of crazy
You're getting
things.
them all. They're calling like crazy tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was telling him about one place over there in Georgia. I heard stories about it for years. Then I finally ended up on that back road. There used to be a truck stop out there, or a little fuel stop back then.
Uh-huh.
It's been closed down for good 25, 30 years. The story went that a truck driver went in there and picked up one, kept her flirting with one of the waitresses, and eventually she took off with him, come to find out he was married, and he killed her. Dumped her body on the side of the road, and to this day she's constantly jumping up on the side of trucks, looking in to see if that's him.
She's going to get even.
I didn't believe it until I was going down that road, driving 379 Pete, Black Pete. Lo and behold, went by that little truck stop. Guy behind me was like, "Oh, that's that place you keep hearing those stories about." And about 5 minutes later, he comes back on the radio. "Man, what's wrong?" I'm like,
There she was. There she was.
She had jumped up on the side of my truck, looked through my window.
Oh, my God. Right into you? She looked right into your face?
Right into my face, right through the window.
My God. And what happened? She just disappears or falls off?
Yeah. She just vanishes.
Man.
She just vanished. I'd sat there going down a straight road, just staring out my passenger window.
Do not stop. Interesting night tonight. Back to the phones. Let's go to our first-time caller line. Thanks for holding. You're on there with us. Hello? Yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hi. My name's Joe. I'm from St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Hey, Joe.
I kind of have a story about this, the back seat, except it's not so much about a back seat as it is, see, I work for a security company.
Okay.
And we're actually based out of Minneapolis. And we do, accounts all over the state. But there's this one account where it used to be a Days Inn, which is now condemned and being ready to be torn down. And the reason why it was condemned is that there was a whole bunch of, how would you call it? Prostitution and that type of stuff.
Okay, a little illicit behavior going on.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, there we go. I was looking for a nicer term, but I couldn't really think of one. Sorry. Well, there also was a murder there, too, where a young lady, she was murdered there.
Okay.
So, anyways, now this was about 15, 20 years ago this happened, and they just condemned it now. And so we've been watching it, making sure no one comes by or gets into the building and steals stuff from there because there's copper in the building.
Yeah, and that commands a lot of money.
Yeah. So, anyways, they leave the front light on so that if anybody were to need to come in that is part of the crew, they'd be able to see and unlock it.
Okay.
Well, while I'm doing my rounds, every time I go by the front door, and I have the radio on because, I've been listening to you for a while, and I know that as I'm going under an underpass, it kind of makes a hissing sound where you're kind of going out. I'm not getting full reception. Well, as I'm passing, there's this other tune that tunes in, and it makes a big like an EVP type of deal.
Right.
Well, anyways, at first I thought I was crazy when I saw this. I saw a black entity that was sitting in the front door, and I've seen them twice now. And there have been 2 other people that have worked this account that said the same thing, and those other 2 people refuse to work the account now.
And how about you?
Actually, I'm still working there.
Are you there now?
No, I'm up in St. Cloud right now, but I'll be working there on Sunday. But I have a couple questions along with that. If anybody would, if you could answer to me what this might be, and how we might be able to detect it, because there have been a couple other officers who are interested in this type of stuff, and they would like to get like the ghost hunters type deal to come out here and check it out. Or
what have people described?
Well, the overall consensus is the same thing. It's a black entity. Like it's just like a kind of a black blob with 2 red beady eyes.
And it just hangs around the doorway.
It hangs around the front door. Yeah, it really never moves, and you can track it by the radio. So you kind of can. That's what I figured out is you can kind of track when the radio starts making this weird noise. You know it's in that area. So
the more static you get on your radio, the more present you believe this thing is, huh?
Yeah, because I've only seen it in the front door, but my radio has also gotten really staticky, where it's been very clear, and I'm normally getting normal reception.
Was it it could have been the entity, the woman who was murdered there?
See, I think it could be, and I haven't seen this yet, but other people are claiming, because, I mean, there's been a couple times where we've had to call in some of our other security guards, since I am unable to go in there, I'm unarmed. We have other people that go in there that check out the place when we think that someone has gone in. Well, a couple other people have said that there was a little girl on the second floor. So we call in the other officers, they come in and look, and they never find anything.
How weird.
Yeah, well, one of the officers that went in there, he found a made bed. And all three of the other officers that were in there at the time went and looked at the made bed. So then they assumed that someone was in there. Well, they came back to that same spot after they were done checking out the whole hotel, because it's not a big hotel.
Are there other made beds throughout the hotel? Just this spot?
The hotel they have cleared everything out, and they're tearing out the copper, and they're using the Brooklyn Center Fire Department's using this building right now before they tear it down as like a practice.
It's a training place, yeah.
Yeah, yep. So there's just this one bed appears and disappears as being made. And that is supposedly where this little girl had been murdered.
How strange.
Yeah. So, I was just wondering if anybody would be able to answer my questions on how we could be able to detect these, or what would be.
I wouldn't push too hard to get that assignment.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the more I've been around it, the more I'm kind of intrigued by it, but I know to keep my distance, especially from whatever's in that front door.
Of course, with the guys who are armed, that's not going to help them anyway.
No, not at all. They'll have some trouble.
Not for this. Hey, call us back with an update when you go down there again. Let's go to our West of the Rockies line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Hi, this is Mick. I'm living in southwest Idaho now, but I used to live in the North Bay area. I had a tow company.
Uh-huh.
And like I explained, I guess, Tom,
our producer extraordinaire.
Anyway, he was kind of questioning about I had a 20-ton wrecker that I used for towing big rigs and that. So my cousin and I, one morning, about 2 in the morning, we decided to go from Vallejo, California, across to Stockton, and then we had to go across from there to pick up the rig. And as we're going down through the Tules there, which we call the Tules, they had all the little canals and that and all this fog and low-flying fog and stuff like that. And we're just tootling along. It's about 2 in the morning, and we figure, well, we're going to have a good ride on over there, and we can hook up early and beat all the traffic back. Well, all of a sudden we woke up, and we had all these flashing lights in our back windows and our side windows and in front of us, and I thought, my God, what is going on here? And here's the sheriff.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what happened? So I look down at my watch, and I'm noticing I'm missing some time here. Something happened. Well, I looked at my cousin Danny. He says, well, gee, Mick, I don't know what happened. He says, all I remember is hearing this little doo-doo-doo-doo-doo in my head, and I go, wow. So we stepped out of the rig, and, of course, the sheriff had to go through the rigmarole, ask us where we're from, what we're doing, look at our, the whole shot, and we're still scratching our... Now, this happened back in 1975, and, of course, out in that area, there's not that much housing or anything. A lot of fishermen go out there and fish and whatnot, and as far as I know, they still don't have a lot of housing through there. But it was so weird, and even to this day, I still scratch my head and think about that, and I think, where did that time go, and what happened?
And why did you get stopped?
Yeah, and why wasn't I wide awake? I don't understand that. It's really weird.
Sometimes you self-hypnotize yourself when you're driving, but that wasn't it, was it?
No, we were totally wide awake. I don't drink. I've been drinking coffee that night, so I had no problem. Didn't do drugs, other than what the doctor gave you.
Yeah.
So, we were straight people, and my cousin, he was straight as an arrow, too. In fact, he's straighter than I am. He might iron his underwear. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of relay that story to you. It's the first time I've called in. I've been listening to Coast to Coast for many, many years.
You might have been one of those classic abducted cases.
Could have been. Who knows? I've never been hypnotized for it or anything. And also, before I go, I do believe they landed on the moon.
Oh, yeah, I do, too. There's no question about that.
About it. I was in Vietnam when they landed.
All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. I'll be back. We've still got another hour to go of open lines right here on Coast to Coast AM. I'm George Norrie. Okay, here's a fast blast question for those of you who are technologically inclined. Our friend Tommy here has set aside his pennies, and now he wants to buy a television, a new flat screen, and he needs some help. And so I said, well, I'm just going to ask everybody who listens to the program, Tom. We'll see what happens. He doesn't know whether to buy an LCD or a plasma, doesn't even know the difference between the two. But those of you who understand this, if you want to send us a fast blast, he'll read them, and then he can make his decision. LCD or plasma, flat screen TV. Now, on Tommy's budget, it'll probably be a 3-inch television, but that he's going to put up on the wall, by the way. I'll be back with more. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie, and let's go back to your calls. Final hour, and it will go by fast. West of the Rockies, you're up with us. Hi there. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, good, yeah. So we were talking about, or listening to you talk about the feeling of someone behind you.
Yeah.
So when I was a young man, like a teenager, my mom would come after work and late at night. She'd get off real late, and 3 times a week we would go out, and that's how we'd talk about our day. And when the time while I was waiting for her to come, I would ride my bike, just to burn the time off for exercise, use it wisely. And I was like tired out, so I stopped and was just sitting there like in the middle of the road. It was like 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, and I had this strange feeling. It was like you said, of someone looking at you, and I turned around and looked towards my house, and there was someone standing on the sidewalk in front of my house. So I looked at them, they looked at me, and this is, way, and they just bolted into my yard. And at the time, I thought I was tough. I actually was, and I just took off after them. And I threw the bike down. I got to my yard and ran up there into my backyard where they ran. About halfway through my backyard, all the hair on my neck stood up, and I backed away like in instinct fear.
What was it that scared you so much?
I don't know. There was nothing there.
You just felt something.
Yeah, there was no way to get out of the backyard. We had 2 German Shepherds back there that were the meanest you could ever imagine.
What were they doing?
They weren't there. They were gone.
Where'd they go?
Hiding on the other side of the house.
You're kidding.
No.
Cowering.
Something else that we saw, if we have just a second, those same years, about 1 o'clock in the morning, over Vegas, there was I guess it was a UFO, but it was a glowing triangle. It was probably 200 yards across. I mean, it was enormous. You know when the moon's the fullest?
It's probably the glow of that pyramid or something.
Well, yeah, it was a pyramid shaped like UFO.
I would of all places over Vegas, I would think it had something to do with the Strip. Some laser show or something like that. Let's go to the backseat line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good.
This is Jeff from the Hershey, Pennsylvania area. I just wanted to pass on a little story, experience I had. This was back in the early 80s. I grew up actually in Vegas, and I used to drive truck, and I had a dedicated route. And this has to do with the feeling of somebody behind you. The truck had a sleeper on it, and it just so happens that after I had what I believe was a sighting between Baker, California, which is the gateway to Death Valley there, and the Nevada state line, me and another driver had what I believe was some sort of sighting. And it wasn't long after that, several times I had this feeling that somebody was in my sleeper. This is a while back, and sleepers were smaller than these big condos they have these days.
But sleepers, though, right behind you, isn't it?
Yeah, correct, yeah. The sleeper on the back of the cab where you would take your brakes at. And add a twist to the story was I never really told anybody about the sighting because I didn't want anybody thinking I was, half out of my mind. Years later, my brother dated a young lady who also drove, and in this exact area in between these 2 mountains, she told him that several times she had a sighting of these. All I could describe them as just an orb of energy, I seen them racing up at a 45-degree angle, going thousands of feet, and coming then back down at another 45 angle. But she saw them several hundred yards off the side of the road.
And these weren't plasma balls, were they?
No, it was a steady. No, these. I'd never seen anything like it. They rose several thousand feet within just several seconds, and then came back down towards the mountain pass there towards the Nevada State, California state line. And basically, I couldn't see where they came from or where they went to. But once they got down to the mountain line, they just kind of faded off. Now, the ones that she said that she seen were out and hovering just several hundred yards off the road. But that was the only place that I would get this feeling of somebody riding with me. And the freight that I was hauling, I couldn't have any passengers with me. And it didn't start till after I seen the sighting, and I got out of the business out there, actually.
That was it. Well, hey, thanks. Linda Moulton Howe on Friday is going to give us a report on a crop formation in England that started with witnesses seeing lights. And it's an incredible story. And the whole thing was made within 90 minutes. There's no way you could sneak a couple people into a field and do that at all. Thanks for the call. Let's move next. Let's go to our first-time caller line. It's your turn. Hi there.
Yes, good morning, George.
Hi.
This is Melanie, and I am actually a trucker woman traveling across I-80, and let me warn you, I think my battery is getting ready to die.
Okay, trucker woman.
Get cut off, I will just call you back some other time.
Okay, deal.
This is regarding premonitions, and first, before I get into that, let me say, from very early on in my life, I have known that extraterrestrials were just, it never occurred to me that they weren't. So much so that when I got older and I heard people doubting it, I actually hurt on the inside. But that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
In my family, we have a history of having different gifts, from premonitions to my grandmother never getting the gender of a baby wrong, having dreams, and so on. All my life, I've had different premonitions. And I was from a very strong conservative Southern Baptist family, was actually taught not to pay attention to them, were taught that they were the work of, the devil, and that we were not supposed to pay attention. Asked my grandmother about it one time, and she said, I'm going to tell you the same thing my grandfather told me, and that's don't let them make a fool of you. And so you just put it on the back table and you don't pay attention. And yet they happen more and more. And in the fall of 2002, I had 2 weeks to the day such a strong premonition that one of my children, Ryan, was going to die, that I was actually driving. I was in financial planning at the time. And I actually had to pull over onto the side of the road because I was crying so hard.
Oh, my gosh. It would scare the heck out of me.
Yes, absolutely. And then I thought, oh, my goodness, you're being hormonal. Life is great. It was a record-breaking year.
Yeah, he's okay. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. It was an amber. When I think about that time of my life and our family's life, it was an amber Norman Rockwell time. Both of my girls had graduated from high school, were doing well in college. I had a son, a senior. My son, Ryan, who passed away, was a junior. It was just great. And 2 weeks to the day, he was gone. And what happened was 2 days before he died, my son, Ethan, was signing up to do delayed enlistment in the Marines. And, of course, he was not yet 18, so I had to sign permission.
Yeah.
I read I am going to have to call you back, but I read there's a waiver in there that says you understand that your son or your child could be going into a situation that could cause the loss of life or limb, which is funny, they put life first and then limb. And I'm an Air Force veteran. I was also delayed enlist, and I read that, and I flashed back to when my father was signing my papers, and I started wondering, did he go through what I was going through at that moment? Had he thought, have I released my child? Have I really, yes, they came through my womb, but have I released them, and do I trust the God that is to my children? And I woke up out of that little moment, and I signed the paper, and was just praying, God, because we were already at war with Iraq, and was just praying, God, you know better for his life. You have a plan for his life. And less than 40 hours later, the son that I wasn't even concerned about was gone.
What happened to him?
He had an asthma attack, and it happened in our home. My youngest son, who's now a freshman, just finished his freshman year in college, we performed CPR on him for over 45 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
We lived in a rural area at the time, and it just took a while for the paramedics to get there. And yet, George, when he died, he was gone. There's that moment that some of us can be brought back if the soul has not left the body, I believe. And yet Ryan was gone from the moment, and he knew, actually. He had been at Walmart that night with some friends. So small town, what do the kids do? They go to Walmart. And he had started talking to his friends about when he died and that he was not concerned. And he was just a good young man. Well, shortly after that, and I've always had a very active dream life, and yet when he died, my dreams stopped. My head would hit the pillow. It was like the lights would turn off, and then at 6:30 in the morning, the lights would turn back on, and I was awake again.
They will start again for you, and your phone just went at a very perfect time for you. That's got to be tough. I've got I've got 3 grandchildren. Number 4 is on the way, and one of them is asthmatic. And I got to tell you, every time I get that call from my daughter that she had one of her spells, I mean, it is absolutely horrible for a parent or even a grandparent to have to go through. And she is 7 years old now. Wild Card Line, you're on the air. Hi there.
Hey, George, how you doing?
Good morning. Good.
That's great to hear. I'm sorry to hear that that Mr. Bell's on his way, but I wish him the best.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to do a bunch of shows for us still, too, so he'll still hang around.
And I'm glad.
Good.
What I called about is I've known I was psychic since I was about 9 years old. I've done a lot of premonitions in my life for family and for friends.
At 9 years old, you knew this? How did you know that then?
My grandfather, my grandmother were driving down the road. It was a freeway. My grandma was in the back. My grandfather was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And I was wide awake, talking to him, laid my head back, and I seen the windshield where I was sitting shatter in my face, and I felt the glass hit my face. And I covered my face up, and I screamed. And my grandmother says, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "You know, the windshield shattered." And she says, "No, it didn't. Look at it." And I looked at it, and it was fine.
Yeah.
We got home, went to bed that night, woke up in the morning, and there was a brick through that side of the windshield.
You got the power.
Right, but the problem is, when I hit 25, they stopped.
Cold.
And I did it at will whenever I wanted to. And at 25, they stopped. And I'm wondering, do you know who I can talk to, who I can get in touch with to help me get that back?
Well, first of all, what happened in your life at 25?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, I mean, I was doing my thing. I was working. I had just gone through a divorce, but nothing really huge, but they just quit on me.
That's weird that it would just, I would think if you're going to lose it, it would have been, while you were a little kid and you would have grown out of it, but not 25. It's just like somebody flipped the switch and it was gone.
Yeah, I did one last reading for a friend of mine who I, thought to be like my sister. And she, her mother had died, and she had been sick when she was a little younger. And I was speaking with her mother from the other side, and I was telling her what her mother was saying, and she was like, "Well, I don't believe you. Give me some sort of proof." And so her mother told me what had happened in the hospital room between them two, and I passed it on to her, and she's crying, and I can't believe, you know all this. How do you know all this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they're still in doubt, even when you tell them, aren't they?
Yeah, but I lost it after that.
And you want it back, don't you?
And I want it back because there's things going on in my life now. I mean, I'm a happy man. I'm happily married. I waited till I was 35 to have a child. I'm in the happiest part of my whole life, and that's the one part of my life that I felt whole with back then that it has a huge hole in me now.
Did you stop believing?
No, I've never stopped believing, ever. And I'm lost. I'm lost without it, and I don't know what to do.
Man, I don't have any names right off the top of my head, but I'm sure we've had guests who could probably help you. You might want to do a search. Just do a search on our website. There's a section there where you can type in some keywords and phrases, psychic ability, and see who comes up, and then get a hold of them. They're very accessible once you find them.
Oh yeah, I know. I've listened to you guys for years. I know you have a great crew. You have great people who come on the show, and I'm always glad to hear. And like I said, I've never stopped believing. But now I'm so frustrated because it's missing from my life, and I need it back.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I'd want it back, too.
Yeah, it's part of me.
Well, keep working on it.
Lost without it. Thank you, George.
All right. Let's go to our wild card line. Your turn. Hi there.
Hello?
It is turn your radio down, and it's all you.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. Well, okay, I'm from New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
And, well, I sort of have two stories, if you have time for
We'll probably only have time for one right now.
Okay.
We're coming into the last half here.
I'll just start. Okay, well, me and my friend were swimming in the Jersey Shore, and, like, first of all, I felt something wrapped around my leg, and I thought it was something like, seaweed or something like that.
Yeah, you hope at least, huh?
And then all of a sudden I felt a pulling on me, and I was like, uh-oh, what's this? And I looked down, and nothing's there. And then so I decided maybe I should get out of the water or something like that. And well, I looked down, and nothing's there. And then all of a sudden I feel something pulling me down. And my friend's looking at me like thinking something's wrong with me, and I'm like, I can't see anything, but something's pulling me down. I physically felt it on my foot, and it was the scariest thing ever.
And your friend, what was he doing? He wasn't yanking you out?
No, well...
Thanks, friend.
He did eventually help me out of the water, but...
After you were going down for the count, he helped you, huh?
Yeah, right. But...
That's a weird... What do you think it was? Some creature, a hand, somebody scuba diving.
Yeah, so...
Well, I don't know. I don't know what was under there. I tell the story of the day I hit a hole. I must have been about 9 or 10 years old, and I was walking in this lake in Michigan, and my uncle was next to me, and I must have hit a hole that was about 3 feet deep. I mean, that's scary when you're walking underground on the water, and you hit a hole. I mean, I went right down. And how I got popped back up again, I do not know. And my uncle didn't even know I was gone. He just kept walking. And down I went. Email me if you want. I'll look at them this weekend. George at coasttocoastam.com. And then when we come right back, we'll have another half hour of open lines for you. Don't forget Ian Punnett this Sunday. And our guest host, Ian Punnett Saturday, our guest host on Sunday will be Raleigh James. Raleigh has done some Coast to Coast programs years ago, and she's back with us on Sunday for this week. And then we're going to just bring some more people in the next month or so, and then try to hone in on somebody for you. And I'll always be doing the first Sunday of every month. Back in a moment, more open line calls on Coast to Coast AM. I have, that we installed in the studio, a pyramid. It floats from the ceiling, and it is pretty neat looking. I got it from Dr. Fred Bell, and we stand under it every once in a while to get a little energy. You might want to try that once in a while. To the phones we go. Let us pick it up by going to our wild card line. You're up with us. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, where are you?
I'm actually in Palmdale, California. In fact, I have a little karma cleaning to do.
Okay.
This is the second time I got through tonight. Which
Great.
is exciting.
So you're only allowed on once.
Is that the truth?
Yeah.
Oh, are you going to hang up on me?
I'm going to have to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
I'll call you another night, but that's
okay, yeah. You get once every 30 days. Tommy, you're slipping. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Norrie.
Yes, sir.
My name is Paul. I'm calling you from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Back in 1992, I was in some financial problems, didn't have a job.
Okay.
Finally
that
found a job
happens.
and had to have a vehicle, of course, to get back and forth to work.
Sure.
Went to what we called a buy here, pay here lot. I don't know if you or your listeners are familiar with that.
You mean for cars?
Yeah.
Buy here, pay here.
Yeah.
They do their own financing.
Right. They charge you outrageous amounts.
And they hope you don't make a payment, and they come and get the car back again.
Right, and you don't get any of your money back.
You got it. That's how they exist, huh?
Yeah, that's it. I bought this pickup truck. Driving it to work, I was working midnight shifts. Out of the corner of my eye, I see an old man sitting in the seat beside me. When I look over, he's not there. And this happens 2 or 3 times. Now, at these lots, you have to go in every week and make a payment. So I went.
So you don't mail a check in?
No.
Okay.
They want you in there. So I go in and make my payment, and I asked the guy about the truck. I said, there's something weird about this truck. And he said, well, you're not the first person I sold it to. I sold it to 2 other people, and I've had to repossess it from both of them. They wouldn't drive it. I said, where did you get it? And he said, a widow woman sold it to me. Well, I assumed then that it had been this old man's truck. I don't know. I drove the truck for 4 years, saw the old man regularly, just out of the corner of my eye. Never got a real good look at him.
And never had a conversation with him, huh?
Tried to, but he just wasn't there when I tried to do something. Well, after 4 years, I got in a little bit better financial shape, and I decided it was time to get a different, newer vehicle. I can't afford a new one. So I sold it to a guy I worked with and told him about this, and he just laughed and said, oh, there's no such thing. 3 weeks to the day after he bought the truck, he was driving to work, ran into a bridge abutment, and was killed.
In your old truck?
My old truck. And the only thing I can imagine is the old man showed up beside him.
Scared the heck out of him.
And wrecked the truck. So it's not really a backseat story, but there's a haunted vehicle story.
Man.
And it happened to me.
Unbelievable.
Well, sorry you don't believe it, but it did happen.
But it is believable. All right, thanks. Let's go to our first-time caller line. You're on the air. Hi there.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hey, George, how are you?
I'm doing great.
George, I'm a minister. I've been a minister for 21 years, and I stumbled upon your station this evening, and I never told anyone this story, but I'm going to share some with you.
Okay, sir. And where are you calling from, Reverend?
I'm actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now.
Okay, sure thing.
I travel quite a bit because I do a lot of missionary work, and I was up in Colorado staying in a motel. I arrived very late, stayed in a motel. And that night, I'm one of those type of people. I crawl under the covers. I go to sleep, and the covers are not even messed up. I crawl out, and they're still the same.
You're out like a light.
I'm out like a light. Well, I felt this struggle in a fight. Someone was trying to choke me. And it was a real live feeling, like someone was literally on top of me. Well, in the morning, I woke up, and the bedspread was off the bed. The sheets were torn off, and the room was a mess. And when I checked out, now because I've been in the ministry for 21 years, I walked down and I looked in the eyes of the clerk and I said, hey, he said, how was everything? I said, well, it was a little frightening. And in that moment, I saw a look in the eye of the clerk. And I said, do you know anything about that room? He said, why do you ask? I said, I had a very frightening experience. He said, well, what happened? I said, well, I felt like somebody was choking me. I said, do you know anything about it? He said, a man choked his wife to death in this room. And this is the first time I have ever shared this story with anyone, and it was so frightening. It's on my charge card. I know the motel hotel, but I've actually been afraid to go back to my charge card to actually revisit that motel or hotel.
And you, I'm sure, have always been a believer in the afterlife, right?
Oh, absolutely. And to actually check into a motel in Colorado and to experience this. Now, if I'd have walked out of there, if the clerk would not have told me what the clerk told me,
and you could have,
I would have never believed it.
No, you would have thought, these were panic attacks, dreams, who knows what.
I'm traveling too much. I'm traveling too much. I need to get more rest.
Yep.
But this was so real to this day. I still am afraid to look back into my charge card records to go back there.
I don't blame you, and I assume you'll never go back to that hotel.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Really?
I've No, of course not.
Would you take the same room?
Well, would I go back? Of course I would.
Why?
Well, have you ever read the newspaper about anyone that was choked to death by a ghost?
There could be a first.
Well, why not take that chance? Because I haven't heard it yet. But at least I'd go back with fortified faith, baby.
Okay, Reverend. Okay. East of the Rockies, you're up with us. Hi there.
Hi, fortified faith. That sounds great. Hi, George. My name's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
I have a dog story for you.
Sure.
Several years ago, I owned a wonderful Labrador dog by the name of Daisy.
I love labs. Got one myself.
Do you? They're great. I live in northeastern South Dakota. A few miles south of here, there's an old abandoned fur trading post. It was abandoned in the early 1800s.
Okay.
All that's left there right now is a monument. You have to crawl across the barbed wire fence to get to it, and it's actually on some private property, so you have to just walk in there. And my Labrador, to get back to her, she barked, but she never growled. Never, ever growled.
Okay.
And she would go with me everywhere I went, and one day she jumped in the back of my pickup, and we went down to visit this fur trading post. And as we were walking in there, she just absolutely slunk to the ground. And her hair raised up on her back, and there was just a growl coming out of her.
What was it she felt?
I have no idea. It was the strangest thing I'd ever experienced.
Pure evil. Well, here's what you can look forward to for the rest of next week. My Monday guest will be Konstantinos. He's an author. He's a researcher into vampires, so get ready for that one. That explains it all. Tuesday, floating format night. We're keeping that open just to see what might transpire. I got to tell you, I'm very fascinated with this program of this executive order that the president apparently signed that would give them the right to seize assets if you're protesting too much about the Iraqi war. Not that they would do that, but may give them the right. So we may talk with Alex Jones about that. And, man, that is unbelievable. Wednesday, that's the night. It's the Ouija board night. The night that I, asked my staff if they'd work it or not. I gave them the option, and they've all selected to hang in there. And I'm thinking of two things, and I just will very briefly tell you this. The Fire the Grid that obviously showed up on the Global Consciousness Princeton eggs. They had that spike. I expected that, but I didn't, if you know what I mean. So I'm thinking of that, and I'm also thinking about, honestly, I'm not concerned about me at all, but I am concerned about you. I'm concerned about somebody who might be playing around with this thing. And that person may not be, I don't know, as surrounded by light as I think I'm going to be. So I'm teetering. The show will go on. I'll tell you that. How it will go on, I don't know yet at this point. But we've got Rosemary Ellen Guiley will join me. Edward Cornelius, who has written a book about the Ouija board, and Aleister Crowley. Stoker Hunt will join us. Jordan Maxwell will be with us, and Dr. Bruce Goldberg will be with us. Oh, he won't make it? He's not going to make it. He is going to make it. Okay, that's what I thought. Thursday, Sean David Morton joins us. More of his remote intuitive predictions. On Friday already, Linda Moulton Howe for an hour or so as we talk about this incredible story of what is happening in England with these crop formations that are forming, and witnesses are seeing lights, and then they're there. And then, of course, we'll have special open lines for the rest of the night. So let's go to the phones. We'll pick it up by going west of the Rockies. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Just hanging out here in Hawaii doing a little work.
Okay, great. What's happening?
Got a backseat of the car story for you with a little bit different twist.
Sure.
Back in school, I used to date this girl named Angie. She was just, sweetest girl you could ever meet, but kind of had, dumb, bad luck all the time. We both worked in bars at night to kind of put ourselves through school. And, late at night, the girls would be leaving. They were always kind of worried to go to their car, dark place to park and all that.
Sure.
Well, she runs out to her car one night, jumps in the car, starts it up, and starts to, drive away. And all of a sudden, from the back seat of the car, she hears this hushed voice going, "Angie." Well, she screams, slams on her brakes, thinks somebody's about ready to attack her, wheels around, and as she had started the car, it just so happened the Rolling Stones song "Angie" was on the radio, and that was the exact point of the song when the radio came on. So there's a backseat of the car story with a happy ending.
A nice little twist. Let's go to our first-time caller line. Good morning. You're on Coast to Coast.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's David. I'm from Tulsa.
Hey, David.
And I could talk to you about many subjects that you guys bring up, but I wanted to make this call about my most entertaining UFO sighting.
Okay, David.
I was in college. I had already seen a couple of objects in the sky, and it was my junior year, and as many people know, at some point in college, you experiment with alcohol. And I had one of those nights where I drank too much.
Aha.
I'm walking home, and I'm right across the street from my house where there was this mom-and-pop store. And I'm drunk. I know I'm drunk. It's 3 in the morning. And I stop, and I look straight up because there were a lot of trees in the neighborhood, and this is the one place you could watch the sky. And when I looked up, I saw a purple star. It was the size of a large star, but it was bright purple. I'd never seen that before, and I've been a sky watcher since I was a kid. As I watched it, it started moving and defying the laws of physics. It was making right-angle turns. It was making opaque angle turns. Now, as I'm standing there at 3 a.m. in this parking lot...
Wobbly,
exactly. A police cruiser pulls up with its lights off. And I don't notice it until it gets right beside me because, once again... So I look down at the police officer, and he goes, "Are you all right, son?" And I said, "Well, I've had too much to drink, but I'm looking at something in the sky that I don't understand." At that point, the driver got out, shut the door, looked up, and said, "Dan, you need to look at this." His partner got out of the other side of the car. Remember, they had no lights on when they pulled up.
Right.
And they both stood there and looked at it. And I said, "Are you seeing that?" And they said, "Yeah, I am seeing that." At that point, I came to my senses and realized I'm really inebriated in public. So I just told them, "I'm going home." And they stood there and watched that little purple star defy the laws of physics. So a UFO maybe it saved me a night in the pokey.
It might have been, and I'm glad you were only walking, David.
Oh, yeah. But it was my first night with an experiment with tequila. And I stood there and said, "Well, this must be that I'm drunk," until they pulled up. So they verified my sighting.
I love it. Hey, you sound like an old friend of ours, Gary Busey. You got that same twang to your voice.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, just like him. Okay.
Anyway, like I said, I lived in a haunted house. I've had more sightings. I died when I was 9. I've got lots of stories I could tell you. I just wanted to start with a funny one.
You got it. Hey, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Appreciate you being on Coast to Coast. Couple minutes to go, and then we wrap things up with UFO Phil. Go ahead. You've got 2 minutes. It's yours.
Hello?
Hi.
George,
Yes.
I'm so pleased to talk with you.
That's you're fine, but we've unfortunately only have a few minutes left.
Okay, I need 2 things to tell you. One, my son and I were walking home, and we saw an old police car, cruiser, go by with one of those flat top lights, and we looked inside, and there was 2 policemen. One, my son said, looked exactly like you, and the other one we didn't know. The next night your program aired, and you said that you had been down to the, the UFO site.
In Roswell.
The police had treated you really well.
Yep.
And it just freaked us out. Secondly, I had a premonition dream. There was a young boy doing the Ouija board, and he was doing it before your show. So I really want to...
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Okay. There you go, and
okay.
Take care, and we love you so much.
Okay, I know what you're saying. It's going to be a weekend of reflection for me. The guests are coming in, but I will reflect. Okay, UFO Phil, take us home.
never knew I had Martians in my garden. And I never knew there were aliens on my roof. I got shadow people, and they're living in my basement. Got a funny feeling Bigfoot's gonna be here soon. I was so blind before, I was so unaware. But now I swear I'm seeing Sasquatch over there. And I turned on my radio in the middle of the night, and I heard things I need to know. Now I can see the light, and I also see a ghost, 'cause I'm listening to Coast to Coast. Well, you never knew that your baby was a hybrid, but as he grew, you began to see the clues. Now you know the signs, 'cause you learned it from George Norrie. Even while you sleep, you got Martians watching you. I turned on my radio in the middle of the night, and I heard things I need to know. And I can see the light, and I also see a ghost, 'cause I'm listening to Coast to Coast. Good morning or good evening, wherever you may be, whichever world you're living in, whatever century, your voice is always welcome here on my radio. Call in with your space transmitter or your telephone. And I turned on my radio in the middle of the night, and I heard things I need to know. Now I can see the light, and I also see a ghost, 'cause I'm listening to Coast to Coast. 'Cause I'm listening to Coast to Coast.
Ralph Rakiris Coburn, Dan Galante, Steve Carr, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladesseur, Ross Mitchell, Alan Corbett, Stephanie Smith, Ian Punnett, and Art Bell. I'm George Norrie. Somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We shall see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe.